Hello! So, a lot of you have been asking me to do some videos about different types of finishes for your doll's house furniture. So I thought I'd start by telling you about this wood dye, which is a penetrating stain for all new or stripped wood. So it's available in 11 shades, and I've got 4 of them here. And I've just done a sample piece of wood for each shade. So we've got the dark oak and the pine, light teak and light oak, and this is just one coat of each colour. And on soft wood, like the sort of types of wood I advise people to use, you're probably going to need 2 or even more coats because it does soak in quite quickly into the soft wood. But as you can see, let me use the darker piece here. Even on this sort of soft craft wood, it really does bring out the grain of the wood. It gives a really nice finish. And this is just, like I say, one coat. What we'll do is we'll add a coat of varnish at the end, which is optional because you may like this sort of rustic, matte look. But you can add varnish in either matte or gloss or satin to give it a different look again. And each of the shades can be mixed to give even more shades. And what I've done here is I've mixed the pine, which is that one, with the light oak. So not a huge difference, but the one that I've mixed is a lot warmer. So when you're mixing them, use a plastic pot, and I always keep all these plastic food pots. You can just reuse them over and over again for mixing paints and stains in. And I have a teaspoon that I keep in my toolbox. Obviously never put it back in the kitchen drawer once you've used it. And I measure out, for this particular measurement, I did half a teaspoon of each colour into the pot. If you're mixing colours, do keep a note of what you've done, because then if you want to do another piece in the same shade, you'll know how to get that exact colour again. And then once you've painted, just put a piece of kitchen towel in there to soak it all up. That can then be thrown away and you can reuse your plastic pot. Okay, so let me show you how to apply it. So I've got just a piece of wood here that I would probably use for the top of a piece of furniture, and in that case I'm just going to use a piece of kitchen towel. But if you were painting an actual piece of furniture, kitchen towel isn't going to reach into all the little corners, so I would advise using a brush, and we'll do that in a moment. But I'll just start with this piece. So I'm going to use the light oak because that's one of my favourite colours. Now I've already given this a good shake, but I'll just give it a little shake again, and that really is important because if the sediment goes to the bottom you won't be getting the true colour. So give it a good shake. It's got a childproof cap on it. I'll do that like that. And then you can just use a piece of kitchen towel or a cloth, an old duster or something like that. And I'm going to leave the piece on the worktop and just rub that in. Nice circular motions. Just get along that edge as well. Like that. And then just give that, well, not even a minute really, a few seconds to absorb into the wood. And then take a clean piece of kitchen towel and just wipe it over the top. So you're just wiping off the excess. And then, as you can see, straight away, that's practically touch dry. The tin says it takes 6 to 8 hours to dry completely, but I would certainly just only leave it maybe an hour before I applied the second coat. And then, like I say, if you're doing an actual piece of furniture, I would use your brush. I've got my brush here, and I'm going to just dip it into the tin. If you've got sort of quite a few pieces to do, you might want to dispense a bit again into your plastic pot, but do keep stirring it in the pot as well. And if you're using the tin, sort of every, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, pop the lid back on and give it another shake, because that will be settling as you're using it. So I'm just going to dip the brush in wipe off the excess, and then again just look how quickly that sort of soaks into the wood. And again, you can just splash that on in any old direction because you can't see your brush marks on there. Under there as well. Again, you need to be careful that you sand away the glue, because this doesn't take over glue, especially with the darker colours. You'll find that you need to pay particular attention to the areas that have got glue on them, along the joins and places. I'm just leaving the top and bottom because I don't want to get that onto my fingers. Oops, missed that shelf. So that was sort of what, 2 to 3 brushfuls I used there. And I can tell you that I did a commission for a whole doll's house, 4 rooms of furniture using this light oak, and that's not even that. I've probably only used a quarter of that tin, if that, so it really does go a long way as well. And then again, let it soak in for a little bit, and then again you can go over with your dry cloth and just remove the excess like that. Put in there to the back bit as well. I'm just going to hold it like that by that shelf, because it's sort of practically touch dry now, and then do the top and bottom. As you can see, I put a little bit too much on there. And where you've got sort of marks like that at the end, you can just keep going over it. I don't actually know if you can see it on camera, but just where the stain had gone onto the top there, it just had a little bit of a sort of tide mark. But if you just keep going over them, you can get rid of them like that, so you've got a nice smooth finish. And it is quite splashy, so make sure you've got sort of a covering over your clothes, an old apron or something. And use that excess up along there. And again, leave that for a few minutes and then wipe off the excess. And it's so easy to use, isn't it? And with varnish now, you'd have to sort of prop that up, wait for it to dry before you could finish off the top and bottom. And that's just the one coat. I'll pop that over there to dry, and then this is one I did earlier, and that's got a couple of coats on it. So a little bit of a deeper colour. And just for this demonstration, I'm going to put the varnish on now, but actually I'd probably even give that another coat, because that's soaked in quite a lot. And I'm going to be using a clear satin varnish. And then the actual brush, you could just wipe off the excess, and then you can just dip that in some white spirit and clean that off. Okay, so the varnish will need a really good stir before you apply it, and this is a satin, but you'll find if you don't give it a good stir and the sediment sits at the bottom, you'll get a glossy finish. And this goes on sort of in this milky white colour, but it does just dry clear, and it's non-yellowing as well. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but again it makes the stain look even richer and again is bringing out more of the grain of the wood. So it is worth using one of these varnishes to finish with, unless, like I say, you want that really sort of rustic appearance to your piece. Now this is touch dry in 20 minutes and completely dry in sort of 2 to 3 hours. So if you want to do a couple of coats, you'll need to leave it those 2 to 3 hours before applying your second coat. It just gives it a really nice finish there. So this is the satin, but you can use the matte varnish or a high gloss if that's the sort of look you want for your pieces. And this is only for application over other varnish or this wood dye, not paint. Okay, so I'll leave that to dry, and then in 20 minutes I can finish the top and bottom. Okay, so that's my shelf with just the one coat of the satin clear varnish. I'm going to give it another coat, possibly another 2, because I'd like that to have a bit more of a sort of shine on it. And then you can just wash your brush out in water for the varnish. Remember, it's white spirit for the wood dye. So the wood dye is available in my Etsy shop. It's available to order simply because I just don't have the room to keep these in stock here, but I order from my supplier a couple of times a week, and that arrives in a couple of days. So for the UK, that will be with you probably within a maximum of about a week to 10 days, and rest of world probably sort of 10 days to 2 weeks. I'll put a link below to the shop. Of course, you don't have to buy it from my shop. It's available in most sort of DIY hardware stores. Might not be the Rustin's make, but any sort of wood dye that you can find will work in this way. But I really like this one because of the range of colours that are available. And don't forget, you'll need your clear varnish as well if you just want to add a nicer finish to it. Or, like I say, you can just leave it as it is for that rustic finish. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give me a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. That would be appreciated. And if there's any other sort of types of wood finishing you would like to see videos on, or any sort of techniques, do let me know. I've got a few planned, but I'd like to know what you'd like to see as well. And for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.